Okay, so this was obviously the piece that I'd done earlier, and I stopped in the morning live. So I thought let's finish it off. And I wanted to make a nice scenery. It's come out far better than what I thought, to be fair. So I'm just spraying some water on there. You can see the bits that have actually come off when I've opened the lid, which is okay because I'm mopping it up with a bit of tissue. So I'm putting on some green, the Andy Skinner Ink-ology. Popping that down, as you can see. And I'm dabbing it off with a tissue where I've either got a puddle or I'm not liking too much there. And then I'm just going to spritz the water and just allow it to blend. I thought put a bit of yellow in just to give that sort of lift in the background, and then I've put some of the browns in. I'm still on the Ink-ology by Andy Skinner. I absolutely love those inks. So I've just moved it around, trying to blend the sky into that bottom background. And looking at it now, you can see I'm just drying it off with a heat gun. But I love the way that we've just blended it and just done a bit more. So I'm now going to get the images that I thought I wanted to use for this. I'm using the VersaFine Clair Nocturne. And I've picked Andy's lovely image of the young lady walking. Now I've done this where she's walking into an enchanted forest, and that's my sort of idea on this. So when people say I don't know how to do a background, have a thought about what you want. So you can see here I'm clearing off the stamp. So originally this video was well over an hour long, so obviously I've sped it up to 13 minutes. So I'm going to get through this quite quick. And you can see now the different stamps of mine. So I've used Andy's as the young girl. And then I'm using now a mix of VersaFine Clair Shady Lane. And I also do Fallen Leaves as well. So I've got the grasses. To be fair, I wasn't sort of keen on how... I need a new pad, if I'm honest. So I need to get me another Shady Lane, because that one's more or less dry. As you can see, it's not done really very well. And all I'm doing here is just sort of building up. So these are your seam builders out of my set, and I am now putting these down. You can put these wherever. I'm using Fallen Leaves, the brown, because to me rocks may as well, and I'm rubbing some out using bits here, so you can see some here, not there. And while I'm doing all this, I'm thinking about how I want to build up the foliage. So I've got another grass off one of the other sets. And all I'm doing there now is I'm building up. Now I'm using the brown, as you can see it's darker, just to give those layers now. So we've got the shady line of the green, we've got the brown of Fallen Leaves, and there were obviously you've got the black of the little girl. I mean, you could do a lighter colour for the young lady if you wanted to. I want to be able to see her coming through. So I've got the flowers now. My interpretation was to actually colour these flowers as a pop of colour, and they've ended it up being a background, which as you start putting things together, that's where you'll see. You can see I've wiped some off, so I'm just using the flower. I'm not using that stalky bit that's on it. This is what I want you to do with my stamps. Do bits that you want, do bits that you want. You can even add on to them. So if you wanted to draw on and add, feel free. So I'm using the small ones now to give me sort of that little area, and I utilise these to actually put some flowers on. So I change these totally as I go through. You'll see I've used an array of Posca pens, but at the minute I'm just building up an area, and I can see that she's sort of walking through now as you're watching me put this together. So all this started off was with obviously that sky that I first done, you know, with the inks, with Art Inspirations blue, and then we got the white Posca splatters. So that's what this has literally been built off. So I'm using some of the lovely little stones. Now these are great off the seam builders. So I've got the pebbles here, and you can turn these around on different ones. So you can do them one way, the other way. And then I've got sort of like the stone. I'm doing it very lightly, so it looks like there's a pathway there. So I play around with that later. So that's just giving me a very light indication. So I very lightly touched it onto the paper there. Now this one, in still the same set, this has let me build up little areas where I'm thinking there's a shadow of foliage. As you can see now, it's letting me look like there's something there without it being. So this could quite easily be trees in a background. It could be ferns. It could be anything as you're walking in. So that to look at it, you would never think that was, you know, that. It's really weird. So I decided to put some Alison Bomber in because I adore her sort of her very much country meadow stuff. So I just wanted to pull a little bit more colour. I wanted to pull these together now. So I've got the yellows and the blues here. And I've just, again, just done some water. These are Andy's Ink-ology. And the water there, I'm just blending in because I want it to go into the sky, into the background. And I'm dabbing it off so it's not too much. Again, drying this as I go. Now, I'm using Super Smooth. This was not a watercolour. This is by Pink Frog. And it is fantastic. Well, I mean, this has had one hell of a battering with water, this scene. As you can see, there's a lot of water going on. So I wanted some trees in the background, and this one stamp can be trees, but it can also be a bottom foliage as well. And on this occasion, it's worked really well to give me that build-up of a scene, which absolutely adored how this is. I ummed and ahed whether or not to fill that gap, but I'm glad I left it really, because sometimes as you walk in, you have that break in your skyline. So I'm getting the Alison Bomber stuff out now. Again, love it. Now, I went a bit random with this, and I thought to myself, oh, I broke it here. Sometimes you can overdo things, and I thought, well, when I've added the white onto this, it absolutely brings the piece together. So I'm glad I went for this in the end. So again, I'm just doing it as first and second generation with a little bit of a shadowing, because when you start walking through the pathways, it will get a bit crazy with foliage, and that's what I like. So I decided on a red for her dress, proper impact statement one there. And I thought, well, why not? Because they're quite strong colours. I want it to reflect that blue lovely, and I think working together, they work well. I added a little bit of brown just to give that sort of highlight, low light, and I will add a bit of white on it later, which you'll see. So again, it just gives you that depth. And I've used buff just to give the little face, just that little bit of a pull. And obviously the leg, arms, popped a little bit of that brown on. I thought might as well use it. And then I thought to myself, well, let's bring some of that browns in there. Let's start to bring the sort of the ground together. And I let the red run into it just so it highlighted bits and pieces, because I do use the Posca pencils. So on speed wise, we're about halfway through. In reality, like I say, this took me an hour to put together. Which I know some of you struggle with. So, you know, I did speed it all up, you know, just so I could get it out there for you. So I got the Posca pens out now. So I thought I just want to add a little bit more to her hair, just so she's a bit more messy. And then I thought, well, let's obviously you've got to give them a shake. But this is where I'm deciding now what colours to put down. So I run the green through, because that apple green with the Posca pencil is beautiful, just to add the highlights on the grasses. So I went for a light blue, dark blue contrast to begin with. And I always put the dark colour down first with the Poscas, and then I put the lighter one on so it bleeds into it. So when you look, it looks like a real one. And I've got that lovely white. That pen white is amazing. You know, and now everything's dried and I'm looking at the finished piece while I'm speaking to you. Putting that white in lifted the piece beautifully. I love it. And I ended up putting some pan pastels in as a misting, not to cover any mistakes, as I used my pan pastels to cover, but I thought she's walking into like a misted enchanted forest, and I just wanted to pull that feeling with obviously them pen pastels in. I mean, I could have left it as it was and it would have been a lovely piece, but I just wanted a bit more of a bit of depth to it. So I'm blending that white, so it just shows you those bits of highlights, and moving the ink just changes that a little bit. So I'm just popping it here and there, that white, to give highlights now to different flowers. And where I think that I want to pull now, that the bits I'm colouring in there is actually from Alison Bomber's range, and it's that lovely floral that I put down. So I'm just putting some pinks in, some light pinks in. That worked really well. In fact, the blues that I'm looking at now as I'm seeing this being built look very much forget-me-not sort of thing, which is lovely. But don't be shy to mix your Poscas. A lot of you are very much, it's got to be this, it's got to be that. Well, no, put water on it, mix it, splash it in. you know, be adventurous. And I thought I had that overspill on that bit of paper, and I thought, you know, so I want to do it so it looks like we've got a bit of blossom in the tree. So again, you can really move the paints around, and you know, again, I'm just going over it again, and I put a little bit of yellow on so it looks like, you know, you've just got those lovely little bits of like pollen in the flowers sort of thing, just so it gives it a little bit more, but it also bleeds beautifully into that pink, and I think pink and yellow are a beautiful combination. So then I thought, well, I'll just put some little dots here and there just to make it look, you know, like we're going into a beautiful thing. So I've got the pencils out now, as you can see. So the Posca pencils are like a wax crayon, and they're lovely to work with. They blend beautifully, and I just wanted to just give that sort of rough, sort of mossy, rocky feel to what I'd put down. Now, I love the picture as it's going like this, and obviously towards the end I darkened it because I wanted to see that we were looking at the back, looking at her coming in. I'm quite liking the look now as I'm looking at it, you know, in this way. I decided on putting some, I was going to put some water splatters on. I know, I didn't. Shocking, isn't it? So I put the oxides on just to start pulling the edges together, because it still didn't do it, even though, you know, I was putting on the darker blue, and I'm thinking, no, I'm just going to have to go for the black. So I do get black soot out, and I do eventually do the black soot. But then I thought to myself, I just want to just lift some of the colour, and the sponge was naff, it was on it. But it done what it allowed me to do. It allowed me to build up the little bit of intensity of those colours. As you can see, when I was actually doing it, I didn't realise how intense they look now, looking at it as I'm putting it onto the paper. So don't think it's not working when it clearly is. All right, so me looking at this now, I can actually see how it's gone onto the paper. So I've learned something there. So what am I doing now? I don't know, because I'm off shot. Oh, but no, I was trying to do different brushes now. So I got the old eyeshadow brushes, didn't do what I wanted to do. I ended up trying to hunt for my actual stencil brushes, which I do eventually find. As you can see, I'm rummaging through pots and pans, and it's like, at last I found the little devils. Sometimes it's better to actually put it on with a brush, and I just wanted to brighten up around her so she looks like she's got that lovely, you know, backness coming through. And as I say, I looked at her and I thought, you know, so I want that mystical, you know, like she's coming in early morning mist or an evening mist. You know, you decide. The clouding at the back pulls the piece and has actually, you know, started the piece off. So we're near the end of it now. So obviously, in hindsight, it's took me an hour. And I know for some of you trying something like this, it's going to take you a lot longer. But persevere at it. Play around with your inks. Play around with the water. I'm just darkening those edges up now. I haven't matte and laid it, but I'm going to put this in the goodie bag for that 1,000 people. So this will actually be, I'll probably matte and layer it for that. But there you go. That is me doing what I love doing and what I need to do more of. So yeah, I'm glad you enjoyed it. And I shall see you all again soon. Ta-da!